Hello everybody, and welcome to the first episode of the Hunting the Empire podcast. Wanted to take this time to introduce myself and what you can expect to hear on this podcast. So this one may be a little bit shorter than some of the episodes that we plan on doing, but as I am the only host and I don't have a co-host, I didn't want to spend a whole bunch of time boring folks with just me kind of rambling on. So a little bit of how this podcast kind of became is that I listen to a ton of podcasts in the work that I do. I've got a lot of free time, just kind of walking around fields. I work in agriculture, so I listen to podcasts pretty much all day long is kind of my company. And I found it interesting that there is a lot of podcasts out there that are from all around the United States, but none really focused out of the Northeast. But on the podcasts that are represented out there, and there are a lot of really good ones with a ton of great information, they seem to highlight hunters from the Northeast region, but I was kind of surprised that nobody represented the Northeast in an actual podcast. So over the past couple of months and hashing ideas around, it's kind of come to be. So if you're listening to this, thank you for the time that you're taking, and I hope you're getting some stuff out of it. So what you can kind of expect to hear on this podcast is hunters, not just bow hunters, but gun hunters, waterfowl hunters, whitetail hunters, a little bit of everybody across the Northeast. So Hunting the Empire is really kind of taken from New York State, being the Empire State, if folks don't know. But I think a lot of hunting tactics and kind of the areas, I guess you would say, the kind of the terrain, I guess that's the better way to put it. The terrain that you would hunt in New York is similar to what you would hunt in Pennsylvania. It's similar to parts of Vermont, and so and even some of the coastal states. Some are a little bit flatter, but in the Northeast region, we've got flat agriculture. We've got kind of big hills and some small mountains with the Adirondacks and the Catskills. And we've also got some swamp grounds. So I think there's a real diversification across the entire Northeast of what hunting conditions and hunters who hunt those conditions that are available to talk to out there. And I'm excited to get a lot of those folks on this program to share that information with you on how they're getting done. I've already got a number of podcasts lined up. Some are already recorded, some are not. I kind of want to get a few put together before I start releasing any of these to then make sure that kind of the well doesn't dry up if I kind of got caught busy in some things and I'm not able to record any. So I guess a little bit on my background is going to be I've been hunting for I guess let me pump the brakes and back it up a little bit. I hunted a bit when I was a kid, not a lot, and really until my early to mid 20s, really didn't think a whole lot about hunting. Is kind of a central New York resident. It's kind of in our blood. It's something we hear and talk about all the time, but it just wasn't anything that I did a lot of until I got into my mid 20s or so, and I started gun hunting on private land and was very content in doing that for a number of years until probably about 6 years or so ago, I started bow hunting and pretty much thinking about it 365 days a year. I prep all year long, mentally and physically. I don't hunt private land anymore. Long story short, about 3 hunting seasons ago, I lost my private ground. It was sold to the farm that worked it, and to salvage a season, I started hunting public ground. We're blessed in New York and the Northeast region to have quite a bit of public ground available, and I seized an opportunity. I'd never hunted public ground before, but again, to salvage a season and be able to get out there, I made it work and have since really enjoyed hunting public ground. I find it very challenging and a lot of fun. I think it's a little less pressure on myself is that if I mess up an area, I got thousands of other acres that I can get out there and kind of play with. There is obviously hunting pressure, but it's just something that I've grown accustomed to. I think everybody's idea of hunting pressure may be a little bit different. So what I consider low pressure, some might consider high, and vice versa. But so I've been bow hunting now for about 6 years now, really taken it serious the past 3 or 4 years. I've really buckled down on my game, really been sharpening my skills, listening to podcasts for about the past year to year and a half. That's really where I get 90% of my hunting information now, just because it's easily accessible for me, because I'm in fields most days or riding around on ATVs most days, so I can just have my headphones in and keep myself occupied with listening to podcasts. But I guess that's kind of me. You'll find out more about me in upcoming podcasts, but again, I wanted to keep this one kind of brief, not so I wasn't kind of rambling on here forever and boring anybody. But I guess real quick, and kind of doubling back on points that I might have missed in an earlier piece, is that stuff that you can expect to hear on this podcast, again, is not only hunters from around the state and around the Northeast, but I've also got some feelers out there, and I'm really excited to be able to talk to businesses, hunting industry businesses that are in the Northeast, or people. I guess we want to call them like, hunting industry insiders, people who live in the Northeast region who are somehow affiliated with the Northeast region, with the hunting industry, who live in the region, and kind of how they did that, what their story is, how they've become successful, and how they're getting it done. So I think that's about all that I'd want to go into in this podcast. Again, I want to keep it brief. I don't want to bore anybody. If you would, please go on to wherever you find your podcasts and leave me a review, a 5 stars or 1 star. I've got big shoulders, so it's okay. I just really want to figure out what the audience is looking for and be able to deliver the best content I can to you. I've got some exciting shows already in the books that I'll be releasing soon, and I've got a lot of really exciting ones that I think people are going to enjoy coming down the pipeline here too. It's just booking them and fitting them all into the schedule. Right now, I plan on releasing an episode at least every 2 weeks. With all the feedback that I've gotten so far already, without even an official launch, it will likely turn out to be once a week, but I'll keep everybody abreast on what's going on with that. You can find me if you want to be on the podcast, or if you think somebody might be interested to be in the podcast, shoot me a line. You can either hit me on email, which is huntingtheempire@gmail.com, or you can find me on Instagram and also Facebook. I'm not super active on Facebook, but as the podcast grows, I will likely get more active in that. So again, I really appreciate you taking the time to tune in and listen to this. And please hit that subscribe button. I'm going to have a lot of awesome guests coming down the pipeline, and I'll be releasing some new episodes soon. Thank you, and God bless.